You have got to accentuate the positive. Eliminate the negative. And you've got to latch on to the affirmative. And I don't want you to mess, don't you mess, no. Do not mess, don't mess with Mr. In Between. And you've got to spread joy up to the maximum and leave gloom down at the minimum. Have faith or pandemonium is liable to drag us in between. To illustrate my last remark, Jonah and the whale, Noah and the ark. What did they do just when everything seemed so dark? Ah, they said, accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, and latch on to the affirmative, and don't mess with Mr. In Between. To illustrate my last remark, Jonah and the whale, Noah and the ark. What did they do just when everything seemed so dark? Man, they said you gotta accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, and latch on to the affirmative, but don't mess with Mr. In Between. I said, don't you mess, I mean it, don't you mess, do not mess with Mr. In Between.
Happy Sunday, New Dawn. Feels good to be here. I've been gone for 2 weeks, and that was not a lot of fun to be gone for 2 weeks. I really missed you guys. Really missed you a lot. We are going to do our gratitude first, and our beloved Gina here has a little gratitude prayer she'd like to share before I share the rest of them from today.
So this fell out of my gratitude journal. Gratitude comes simply in this quiet, sacred space, where hearts and candles brighten the dark. We hope and dream together of creating a heavenly earth with enough love and courage, the help of one another, with the clarity to envision it already here. Thank you for the courage, the strength to guide us into our busy, fearful, divided world. Help us see the beauty through the broken, the lesson in the pain, the kindred spirits seeking one another, coming from the shadow into the light.
That was beautiful, Gina.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. This has been such an amazing practice, and we got to thank Russell. He came up with our gratitude challenge for the month of November, and then the rest of us came up with this idea to have these little slips. And thank you all who've been indulging us and filling out the gratitude slips on a weekly basis. But it's been such a great practice, I'm not really ready to let it go. So we're going to keep that up through December as well. In addition, we have, instead of a gratitude challenge for December, we have our Love and Service Challenge. Again, brought to us by our brilliant Russell. On your way out today, see me and I will hand you a slip for this first week. It has great ideas like spending time with a loved one or family member, set aside distractions, and engage in deep, meaningful conversation. I think that's a good thing for us to focus on any time we're with our loved ones, but some of these challenges on the sheet are really good ideas for us to keep going through the month. So our gratitude list today, Pat wrote, "This new day, ready to embrace and be grateful for whatever comes my way." Last week, Sue's little granddaughter was here, and she wrote one. She said, "My mom and my Nana." I'm not sure what her name is. What's her name, Lois? Okay, thank you. Nancy Kipke never has a shortage of things to be grateful for. But this one is from Mickey, who isn't with us today, and she's grateful for Nancy and her fun spirit, and she always gets us all in spirit with her dancing and her fun personality. And Gina, remembering the connectedness between awe and gratitude. And Nancy says, "The joy tingling through my body." I think it just emanates from her at all times. And then Mickey says she's grateful for me for arranging these amazing speakers and all the beautiful people we get to share our Sundays with. That's gratitude for November. Let's see what happens for December. I think we'll have even more. So with that, I'm going to get us started with a prayer and some words of inspiration. And in this moment, this absolutely sacred moment of now, and reflecting all of that deep gratitude from this past week, from celebrating with family and friends, and for the gratitude that gets written about here every week. It's just so beautiful to sink into that space of gratitude and thanksgiving. For it is in that space that we truly commune with our divine nature. We truly commune with that God at the center of our being. We get to recognize in that sacred space where we connect with our divine, all of the beauty, all of the outward beauty, the beautiful Colorado sunshine today, this full room of people coming to be blessed and inspired by the beautiful Reverend Dr. David Goldberg. I'm so deeply grateful that he is here to share with us once again today. And in addition, I am deeply grateful for our beloved Karen and the music that she brings that soars our souls on her voice. And for Travis, who's going to grace us with his voice today as well, and keeps our AV running smoothly. For our beautiful hospitality team, for our kindred spirits that brought together the giving tree where we get to seep more good out into our community. For our beloved practitioners, for our leadership council that keeps the boat in the water and us sailing just perfectly along. So in deep gratitude for this and so much more, I simply release these words into the law, knowing that they are already done in the mind of God. For wherever God is a blessing, and God is everywhere. Just so grateful for that. And together we say, and so it is. You don't have to do anything to earn it. Your shortcomings, your lack of self-esteem, physical perfection, or social economic success, none of that matters. No one can take this love away from you, and it will always be there. From Michael Bernard Beckwith. The truth is that there's more than enough good to go around. There is more than enough creative ideas. There is more than enough power. There is more than enough love. There's more than enough joy. All of this begins to come through a mind that is aware of its own infinite nature. And from our founder, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Holmes, and Raymond Charles Barker in 365 Days of Richer Living. Effective prayer is an acknowledgement of the presence and power of good. It is an acceptance of this presence as close to us, and this power is acting on our acceptance.
This morning, what I normally do is Denise keeps rap sheets on everybody that comes in to speak. I did not print Dr. David's out. But here's what I know about Dr. David.
Ruh-roh.
He has been ordained by both Centers for Spiritual Living and Unity. He has 4 advanced degrees, learning and growing and expanding. That's just what he does. He is brilliant. He finds ways to serve celebrations, whether it's birth or end of life, everything in between, like weddings. He is there modeling the principles that we live by here and always out in the community everywhere, providing service to everyone. He's an absolutely brilliant man. And if you haven't laughed for a while, strap in. Because, he knows how to bring a smile to everyone's faces. I love him right to death. He loves to come here. He keeps coming here. I haven't been able to drive him off yet. And he brings people with him, I jokingly said to him before we started, that rumor I started you were going to tell the truth this week must have got some traction. We got a full house here. Come on up, Dr. David.
Bless you, Russell. Thank you.
Knock him dead.
Well, I love happy day, good dawn. Good morning, good afternoon. Happy day sounds perfect. So thank you for having me back. Reverend Denise, I respectfully disagree with you. I was gone the past 2 weeks. We happened to be out of the country on our annual sojourn to Aruba, and it was delightful. And so good to see you. So good to be with you once again. Always a joy to head a little bit east and join you and my friends at New Dawn. And Karen Karsh, my goodness, a couple more years, you're going to get the hang of this, darling. So, joy incarnate. It's always an honor to share the platform with you. Thank you, sweet Karen. So, my friends, I want to start off a little bit differently today. I would respectfully ask all of the New Dawn practitioners and any religious science practitioners in the room, any ministerial colleagues from any tradition, I know that we have chaplains in the room as well. Would you all please stand?
Oh, wow.
Stay standing, Katzmeyer. Hang on. He's the reason I'm in ministry. That's why I can talk to him that way. So, my friends, I offer this to you as we step into a conversation about hope. Sometimes we're really good about knowing that for ourselves, and sometimes we have a human moment and we're not so good about knowing that for ourselves. Your extraordinary minister, Reverend Denise, your practitioners, and so many other people in the room today. And Karen Karsh, please, if I may respectfully ask you to stand as a minister as well. Wow. Your ministry is powerful. These beloveds are steeped in principle. They see you beyond your physical presence. If you're having a struggle, if you want to engage in a point of celebration, they can pray with you, they can be with you, they can know and see the true you. Just know how loved and deeply supported you are in this community. Thank you all. So as I was pondering the thought of hope in the first Sunday of Advent, like a good researcher, like a good doctoral student, I went to the Google and and I found this quote that really spoke to my heart that says, "Hope is tomorrow's veneer over today's disappointment." And that is by Evan Essar, who's actually a humorist. And he wrote a book of familiar quotations, he's wrote a bunch of humor, and that really spoke to me. I tend to be an optimistic guy, as our beautiful Russell pointed out. That's how I like to show up, that's how I like to see myself, as optimistic and a glass half full. And to be clear, I certainly have my moments as well. And when we have those moments, it is hope that helps us past that, whether in our personal lives, whether in our community life, right? I know that our beloved New Dawn community has had some of those ups and downs yourself, and we bless you through all of those. We know the one power, the one presence that we call God is in, around, and through it all. And on a national level, and certainly on an international level, there is opportunity to be disappointed. And yet, as people of faith, we know that there is something beyond that. And so that is why I invited all of these extraordinary and powerful light beings to stand with me, to stand with you for whatever you might need. You know, it is so humbling and so honoring to be with somebody in a time of celebration, to be able to share in that. Rick and I had the opportunity to go have dinner with my niece at her home in Broomfield about a month ago now. And we were celebrating my newest great nephew. And they had just shared with us that night, they didn't think it was a big deal, and we were talking about him, and he was playing and gurgling and doing his thing. And they shared that we knew his name, but we didn't know his middle name. And they said, "Oh, we decided to go with David." Oh, and you know, my heart is melting, and they know I'm a little bit of a weenie, and they weren't necessarily with me in that moment. They're like, "Well, it's a name that tracks on his side of the family," and they were going down that path, and I said, "And?" In addition to being my name, oh yeah, it is also my grandfather's name, and it's a family name on our side of the family. And they were like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," you know. So my point is, to be with people in that time of celebration is tremendous. And to be with people in that time of challenge, right? When you can't see the good of who you are, when your vision is blurred for whatever reason, lean into somebody who can help you, who can support you, who can see you as who you are. So that's part of what we're talking about today as we talk about hope. So as I mentioned, we had the great honor of being on vacation the past 2 weeks in our home away from home. My late partner and I went to Aruba in 1988, had a little too much free rum punch, and bought a timeshare. This was my 36th Thanksgiving on the beach. And Rick has joined. He has become the mayor of the beach. We have many of our dear friends who are going to be joined. They've joined us in Aruba before. They're going to be joining us next year as well. And one of our activities while we were in Aruba, we walked across the street. It was a huge commute. And Wicked, the movie, opened on Thursday, and we went to see it on Friday. And if you haven't seen it, whether you know the story, whether you're familiar with it, whether you're a fan, not, it really is a tremendous spectacle on so many levels. Highly recommended. And tomorrow, Wicked, the musical, it's the pre-story of The Wicked Witch of the West. So, in theaters now. And to borrow one of Galinda's lines, it's a pleasure to see me again, isn't it? And then she goes on to say, you don't have to answer, it's rhetorical. So that's my big opening. And so today I was so pleased when Reverend Denise reached out and said, what about December 1st? And knowing it's the first Sunday of Advent, knowing that there's not a Broncos game, yes, I'm looking at you, Paul Barrett. Yes, I'm looking at you, Jamie May. Thank you for being here. I know that's a big choice and a big decision. But the thing that really spoke to me as well is that we get to talk about hope. And that's what we're embracing. And that's what we're stepping into. I was having a conversation with another friend in ministry this week, and she said, "Oh, we're not doing Advent this year." I said, "Oh, really? Tell me a little bit more." She said, "Well, it triggers some people." And you have heard me say this before. I feel as though it's my job in ministry to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. So if this triggers you in a positive way, I invite you into a deeper conversation with self and a deeper conversation with me or anybody that you feel comfortable with. So the season of Advent then brings light to the season of darkness in the teachings of Christianity. It helps us prepare for the arrival, for the birth of Jesus the Christ. And so this being the first, there are always 4 Sundays that lead up to Christmas. This is the first Sunday, and we talk about hope. And the color is purple, speaking of the royalty and of the season and so forth. So
Very purple. I see it.
you are wise beyond your years, Karen Karsh. So as we gather today then for this first Sunday of Advent, we are invited into that feeling of hopefulness, right? What are we hopeful for? Each year, Rick and I go through a process, and we've shared this a few times under the banner of the minister and the mystic, but we go through the process of completions and creations. For us, it's really important to reflect on the past year. What did we experience? What did we move through with grace? How did we grow? How did we expand? What were some things that we could have done better, individually and together, right? And so that is the completions. And then we also look at creations. What do we want to create in the new year? What are we calling in for ourselves, for our family, for our community, for the planet? And to be clear, my friends, what you think about, what you pray about, what you meditate on for the planet makes a difference. That is something that we can all do to raise the vibration on the planet. So I invite you into that practice, whatever it looks like for you. So this is our time when we prepare our hearts, we prepare our families, we prepare our communities for the promise of light, for the promise of renewal. You know, there's a reason why there are dozens of festivals in so many of the world's religious traditions between now and the end of the year, right? As we approach solstice, as we approach the shortest night of the year, the longest night of the year, the shortest day of the year, that is where we get to bring our metaphorical light. So what is the light that you are bringing to the season of hope? You know, as I reflect on that and what is mine to do, and equally as important, what is mine not to do? Where am I going to let my light shine? Right? As is written in the Bible, if your light's under a bushel, it's lost something kind of crucial. So where and how are you going to consciously choose to let your light shine? Thank you. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. One more time with gusto. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Excellent. And so being in spiritual community, I think almost everybody in this room, and if I don't know you, I see your light. You're really good at being in service. Chris and Larry are taking the labyrinth around the world. Athena is sharing her gift of music around the world. Barbara and Kelly are praying with people, are being in support in extraordinary circumstances as chaplains around the world. Connie and Michelle belong to a number of purported book groups, and yet their energy is raising the energy on the planet, you see. So we're all really good about being in community. So when we sing, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine," I invite you to consider how you're going to let it shine in your own life. What are the areas of darkness or maybe dimness in your life where you can bring light to your own life? As you know, my friends, my belief, our belief in New Thought, is that you are a perfect expression of the divine. So, yes, thank you. So, as such, whatever you can't see for yourself, if you have the opportunity to think about it differently, you have the opportunity to change it. What do we know? What we think about, we bring about. What else do we know? Everything is just energy and information until we label it, until we choose what to call it. Walking out of here today, I'm sure virtually everybody is going to say, "Oh my gosh, that was awesome. He really inspired me." And there may be one or two people who choose to say, "Nice guy, mediocre talk." It's all fair game, right? It's all 100% up to my interpretation. So what is happening in your life that you can interpret differently? What is happening in your life where you might shine your own light in that darkness? You know, there's a reason why we have candlelight vigils in so many traditions around the holiday season as well as throughout the year. When I worked at the Colorado AIDS Project, we had candlelight vigils annually for all those who were lost to HIV and AIDS. Candlelight is so powerful. On 9/11, there were spontaneous vigils virtually all over the world in support of the U.S., in support of what we were doing. That is what we do, my friends. That is the light that we bring to the world. So that is how we can prepare as we move into this season of light. And I was remiss in my opening remarks. I know that many people are regulars of New Dawn and or other religious science tradition, other unity traditions, other New Thought traditions. And I know that we also have people here from other faith traditions, from other backgrounds. And we have perhaps people who identify as atheists or agnostic. And what I want you to know is it is not my job and it is not our job as a community to tell you what to believe. You know what you believe, and we love and support you in that. We just encourage you to join us in the learning, to walking into the unpackaging of that. So wherever you are on your path, you are welcome here. So that's the preparation then as we move into the season of Advent, as we talk about hope. And the other elements will include peace and joy and love. And today we talk about hope. And we're called to ignite our inner light and share it with the world. And so once we ignite that then, once we prepare for that light, both inwardly and as a community, what does it look like to live in hope? How do we cultivate hope in our daily lives? First, remember that hope isn't passive, that hope requires action. I loved the quotes that Denise read at the beginning of service. I would also add Eric Butterworth, another great New Thought teacher who has written, "We must never forget that we are the ones who create the circumstances of our lives." I also like the shorthand version of that we are the ones that we've been waiting for. If not us, who? If not now, when? So that is what we are stepping into. By embracing this truth, we recognize that we have the power to influence not only our own circumstances and thoughts and beliefs and actions, but those around us as well. I also loved your quote from Michael Beckwith, Denise. I was honored to be asked by Michael Beckwith and Roger Teal to serve on the board of the Association for Global New Thought. And there we were at our visioning meeting in mid-2019, and I was sharing some thoughts about what we were going to do with Science of Mind magazine. And Michael Beckwith is taking notes on what I'm saying. And I'm like, something's wrong with this picture. I'm supposed to be taking notes on what you're saying. But Michael was writing down that in 2020 we were focusing on perfect vision. And given a global pandemic, I think we all came through it very well in that regard. And Michael's invitation, being the father of visioning, that I would humbly call him, is what is the visioning process? What does that look like and feel like for you as an individual? If you're not familiar with it, I'm sure Denise and the practitioners and the board here at New Dawn will be offering something very shortly. But it's really quieting your mind and tapping into what is Spirit's highest and best for you and for what you are about and what you are entering into. And what is the highest and best I can hold in this situation? How can I choose hope over despair? Each time we continuously choose hope, we expand our capacity for a positive outcome, right? So that is what we are stepping into individually and collectively. So as we prepare ourselves for hope and we understand living in hope, what does that look like then as part of a broader community? Whether this is our New Dawn community or any community that you might be a part of. And let us remember the importance of that community. We are stronger when we support one another in our hopes and dreams. As Russell said so brilliantly earlier, none of us is as smart as all of us. Together, we can create a collective energy that will uplift us all, right? We all heard the metaphor that the raising tide raises all boats. And we had the experience this past week, bless you, we had the opportunity to live that. And let's also remember that when we do that, when we put that energy of hope into the world, that it goes beyond us, that it goes beyond our community. In a world that often feels chaotic, it's our responsibility to be those beacons of hope. As another New Thought pioneer, Myrtle Fillmore, has expressed, you are a living manifestation of the divine, and you have a right to be a free and happy person. I know that for you, and I invite you into that. So speaking of your role in community then, and not knowing what we don't know, I may have shared with you before, I'm sure I have, that I have 5 amazing nephews and 1 beautiful niece. And my niece is my favorite niece, and she's the apple of my eye. She was going to join us today. She's the one who just had the baby boy and gave him the middle name David. And she's not 100%, and she's hosting Christmas, and we want her to be well. So I gave her a hall pass. Anyway, when Callie was in high school, I thought a little bribery would be in order. I know it always works for me. And I said, honey, if you continue to take French through high school, when you graduate, I will take you and a friend to France. And she said, Uncle Dave, that's so generous. Thank you. And she promptly dropped French the first week of her sophomore year. And then, of course, as we approached graduation, I'm really excited, Uncle Dave, when are we going to France? I'm like, honey, I don't think that was our deal. And yet, 6 weeks later, we found ourselves in France. And thankfully, her friend that she chose to take was my nephew. So it was my niece and my nephew. We had a lovely time touring, doing the sights, spending time in England. Yes, it got expanded from 1 country to 4 countries. Different story. And we're touring, and we're in London, and I shared with my niece and my nephew. I said, okay, you guys probably need a break from Uncle Dave. And what I am going to do, I'm going to go to a play. I'm going to go to a musical on the West End of London tonight. And you are both welcome to go with me. And you certainly don't have to go. This is something that I'd really like to do for myself. And my niece is all over it. She said, oh yeah, Uncle Dave, I love musicals. I'll go with you. My nephew, I could have been speaking Greek. He didn't understand any of the words in that sentence. He said, do they have bars over there? I said, it's the West End of London. I assume so. You know, I don't know anything about it being a dry country or a dry city. So he decided to come with us. We got him a ticket where the 3 of us are sitting in a very old, wonderful theater in a very old, hard wooden seat. And Fiddler on the Roof starts. And of course, the guy literally standing on a roof playing his fiddle and singing and talking. And these wheels are turning in my nephew's head again. It's like he's been plopped down on Mars. He has no context. He doesn't know anything about anything that's happening. And so the play progresses, and we get to the end, or we get to intermission, and he takes a deep breath, and he said, well, that was interesting. I'm not sure I'll ever understand why people burst into the middle of the song when they're telling a story. But it wasn't horrible, you know, so he's ready to go out and have a beer. And my niece just looks at him and starts laughing, and he's like, what? And she said, oh no, we're not done. This is intermission. And he's not quite sure what that word means in this context. And she looks at him and she says, it's halftime. And his face is just ashen. He's like, how much more of this do I have to sit through, right? So we got to the end of that, and we were talking about the story, and I said, you know, this is the story of a tradition with regard to faith, and specifically the Jewish faith, and how each one of Tevia's daughters did something that was a little bit more pushing the boundary, that was a little bit more on the edge, right? Falling for somebody without the matchmaker, falling for somebody outside of the community, falling for somebody outside of the faith. It just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And so Justin got that. And he was understanding what it was like to be in community and what the conversation was. So later on that trip, when we were at the Vatican, we were in the Sistine Chapel, and the tour guide is doing a great job of telling us about all the saints and all of the story, and of course the cupola, the ceiling. And at the end of the tour, my nephew gently approaches the tour guide, and he said, and I'm not going to have the numbers right, but you'll get the idea. He approaches the tour guide, and he said, excuse me, you said that there were 19 saints lining the chapel. And she said, yes. And he said, I only count 17. And she looked at him and she said, I've been doing this tour for 8 years, and you're the first person to call me on that. And you're exactly right. When we the last time we redid the chapel to make room for more of the ornate altarpiece, we had to remove 2 of the saints. So here is my nephew, a very proud and self-identified atheist, participating in a conversation in the Sistine Chapel, the throne of St. Peter, the home of the Pope, and he's understanding community. And so closer to home, a couple of days ago, when Rick and I were getting ready to head to the airport, some new friends of ours in Aruba insisted on taking us to the airport because they had a rental car and we just go there and plop in the sand for 2 weeks and don't move, and then we go back to the airport. And they had a car and they insisted on taking us, and we finally acquiesced and they drove us to the airport. And they're lovely, and a mother-daughter team from upstate New York. And then as soon as we got to the airport, Rick is like, oh shoot, I think I forgot my hearing aids. So we're calling and we're texting, and they got the hearing aids, and they're gonna send them back to us. And then I also heard Effie, the daughter, who's about our age, speaking with some friends of ours in the ocean. Come to find out, her husband, her beloved of 22 years, is the bass player in the pit orchestra for Hamilton on Broadway. He started when it was in a little workshop and nobody knew whether it was going to fly or not. He's been the primary bassist for the past 10 years. She's having this conversation with this great young couple that we know. That's a whole nother story. Jen, again, is all over musicals. Drew, not unlike my nephew, could take it or leave it. So she's having this conversation with our new friend, and she said, oh yeah, we get tickets all the time. If you ever make it into the city, I'd love to have you be my guest at a performance of Hamilton. That is building community. We don't all have that opportunity to get somebody comp seats to see Hamilton on Broadway. We do have the opportunity to invite somebody into our spiritual community. We do have the opportunity to reach out and say, I know that you just went through a painful loss. How can I support you? I don't want to dump my stuff on you. If you're doing great, that's awesome. If you want to talk, let's have a conversation about it, right? So how can you be in that place of love and support in your community? So as we move toward the closure of this part of our service, my friends, I just want to remind you that hope isn't a feeling. It's an active, creative, connective energy. I was having part of this conversation with beloved Chris and Larry over lunch that many of you know my dear friend, I'm sure he was a dear friend to many of you as well, the late, great Reverend Norm Bouchard. And Norm had a gift. He had so many, but one that speaks to me this time of year is one of his trademarks was the song, Love Can Build a Bridge. And Norm was a hearing individual, and he learned the sign language interpretation of Love Can Build a Bridge. So whatever the choir or the soloist or whoever was singing Love Can Build a Bridge, Norm would stand there as an old white guy of a certain age and sign, Love Can Build a Bridge. And as I was reflecting on him this time of year, because this is about the time that he passed, I was also thinking that hope can also build a bridge. That is what we can do. That is what you can do. That is what you bring to the picture, right? So in this moment, for whatever reason, if you are in that place of celebration, congratulations. Good for you. Joy and hope are our natural states, and you deserve to be there. Whatever your mind is telling you about any other story, don't listen. Joy is good. Hope is good. Happiness is our natural state. And if you're slightly off center for whatever reason, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling anxiety about any aspect of your life, it's okay to have those human moments. And when you can't know those for yourself, lean into one of those beautiful people who stood, right? Who stood and they see the light of who you are. So this Advent, as we step into it today and for the next 3 Sundays, let us ignite the flame of hope in ourselves and in our world and allow it to shine as brightly as possible. In the words of our founder, Ernest Holmes, the universe is a friendly place, and we are all friends in it. Embrace this truth. Let it guide your journey through Advent and beyond. Please join me in prayer. If all of our practitioners and ministers and clergy, if everyone can please rise and join me in prayer, please. How good it is to be in this space, to be in this place of knowing who we are, that we are extraordinary spiritual beings sharing this human experience. And what I choose to focus on in this moment is hope. I see you for who you are. I trust that you see me for who I am. And when we are in that place of hope, when we are in that place of recognition, when we are in that place of living the concept of namaste, the divinity in me blesses and recognizes the divinity in you, I know that that's a powerful and grounded and centered place from which to conduct our humanness. So as we move forth then, I call in the highest and best and happiest and most hopeful elements in every aspect of your life. Mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, relational, professional. It is all good because it is all God. That one power, that one presence is in, around, and through it all. And I stand in the truth that every action, reaction, interaction, and transaction is God speaking to God. And I absolutely know that you, as God, are showing God a good time. I call it good. I call it happy. I call it blessed. I call it love-filled. And yes, I call it hopeful. What I know to be true is once you choose hope, anything is possible. I release, I let go, I allow it to be. And together we say, and so it is, and so I am, and so we are. Thank you, Spirit.
Stand up on your feet so you can feel your heart beat. Are the lyrics up on the screen?
No.
No, okay. Oh, goody, everybody gets to remember it. Oh, good. All right, here we stand up on your feet, listen to that sound. Stand up on your feet, you can feel your heart beat. When you really feel and listen, let's say, hope is all around. Sing it again, Travis. You ready? Here we go. Stand up on your feet. You can feel your heart beat. Stand up on your feet. Listen to that sound. Stand up on your feet. You can feel your heart beat. When you really feel and listen, hope is all around. You can feel it in the rhythm of the rain, in the wind when it whispers your name. Did you ever wonder when you heard that the sand. Sing, stand up on your feet. Stand up on your feet. You can feel your heartbeat. You can feel your heartbeat. Good. Stand up on your feet. Stand up on your feet. Listen to the sound. Listen to the sound. Heartbeat again. Stand up
on your feet.
You can feel your heartbeat when you really feel. When you really feel and listen. Hope. Hope is all around. God, you're wonderful. When you feel like giving up, don't give in. Right, David? You gotta reach down deep and find that hope from within. And always remember, we're all in this together, and that is why we're gonna sing it again. Go!
Stand up on your feet.
Good. You can feel your heartbeat.
Stand up on your feet.
Listen to the sound. You're awesome.
Stand up on your feet.
Your heartbeat. When you really feel. When you really feel and listen. Hope. Hope is all around. I know sometimes we all feel alone, but remember, we're never alone. When we really feel what your heart has to say, listen. Let your heart lead the way. Stand up on your feet. Listen to your heartbeat. Come on if you want to.
Stand up
Oh, God.
on your feet.
Listen to that sound. Sing big, everybody. Stand up
on your feet.
Listen to your heartbeat. When you really feel. When you really feel and listen. Sing it, Travis.
When you really feel and
When you
listen.
really feel and listen. Do it again.
When you really feel and listen.
Really feel and listen. Hope is all around. Will you do it one more time for me? Just one more time. Go. Stand up on your feet. Listen to your heartbeat. Stand up on your feet. Listen to your sound. Put your hands together.
Listen to the sound.
Stand up on your feet. You can feel your heartbeat when you really feel. When you really feel and listen. When you really feel and listen. When you really feel and listen. And there's joy, and there's love, and there's music. Do that one, Travis. There's
Joy. There's love and there's music to be
beautiful.
found.
You sing it with me. There's joy, and there's
there's
love,
love,
and there's music. I think you are the best audience on the planet, and I think Dr. David is the best human being today. I swear, he's just wonderful.
He's a good kid.
Stand up on your feet. Stand on